First of all, quick reminder, we are recording. I think that should be clear by now. We have the usual housekeeping that I want to remind all of us that please communicate, just like on the prior call. We want to follow the code of conduct, FreeBSD project's community code of conduct. And please mute yourself if you don't talk. If you want to say something, feel free to interrupt me. But at the same time, I want to ask you that if any one of you guys is speaking, then please let the other party finish. Raise your virtual hand, but please also understand that if you think about the time framing of this call, that eventually, if you keep talking, I might remind you of the time as a moderator. All right. Let's go to the agenda. So first of all, I would like to suggest that we do a quick recap in terms of what we put in the minutes, and this is. I hope everyone can see that. Okay, Michael made a suggestion that we add the link to join. Yes, we can put that in here. I will put that in here in the future. Otherwise, quick recap. I put as many of the attendees that I could gather from the recording. I put them in here. Feel free to correct or add yourself if I missed you. If I did miss you, I apologize. I made the mistake the last time that I did not export the attendee list before leaving the call. Well, lesson learned here. Right, so here we got all the different areas of interest. We had the different votes that we documented. And we also reviewed the Foundations project. And the two main action items that we went out of was to hold a survey and to review the Foundations laptop project. We also have one open question, which I think is kind of answered. The question was whether whether the adapters, or whether the Thunderbolt USB 3.4 conversation was tied to the USB dongles during the conversation. And I did rewatch the recording, and the way I understood it was that these were two separate conversations. If you do disagree, then please feel free to add your comment. But I think reading from the comments that we have here in the document, then I think it should be reasonably clear that the conversations were two separate ones. All right. So we also agreed to generally the agenda that we now have in today's call. And if there's anything you disagree with, anything you want to add, or anything you think was misunderstood, then please speak up now. Otherwise, I would go back to the slides and move on to the to today's agenda. All right, Robin, you want to speak?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I could say a little bit about Bluetooth Low Energy support, because I was working on it lately. So if you would like to put that on the agenda.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have a section on the agenda. Hold on a second. Let's go back to the slides really quickly. For today, where we do have a review of the various action items that we have in the worksheet. And if you want to speak up in regards to Bluetooth, then I think that would be the right place and time to do that. A couple of governance items that I would like to run through, and then we have the areas of interest where we are looking at the worksheet. We have this Google worksheet with all the various items. And I think Bluetooth is also on there. And if you have things you want to say to the particular item, then I think that would be the perfect time when we look at the worksheet and talk about updates. Is that okay with you?
Yes, of course.
All right. Okay. So then let's start with the governance items. First of all, okay, we already looked back at the link right there, but ignored that. In terms of governance for the call, I want to suggest, though I suppose it's kind of a mix of things. when I prepared the slide deck, I realized there were a couple things happening since the last call that would make sense to raise awareness for everyone because they're related to laptop and desktop use on FreeBSD. On the other hand, they're also tied into the various action items. So I'm a little bit uncertain what path is the best way to combine things, or whether it is better to keep things separate in terms of bringing those items. The main benefit of bringing news items or calling them news item is probably that it would be fine to raise things even if we're not necessarily immediately tied into the activity ourselves. And it would allow us to raise awareness of things that are not necessarily being addressed by people attending the call. On the other hand, if we stick to the regular items that we have on the worksheet and only people talk about things that they are actively participating and working themselves on, then obviously we have the chance, to discuss things and talk about things because we have the people on the call already. To make things more easy to understand, what I want to point out is I brought a couple examples, and if it's okay with you, I will run through them really quickly. I'm not going to go into much detail because, again, those are primarily items that I picked up over the last few months. And I would suggest maybe after going through them, maybe by a show of hands, we can vote whether we want to keep that as a point for future calls or whether we want to drop that. Actually, I need to figure out how I can watch the recording as well on this side. So if you guys raise your hand, then I can see that. Okay. So what have I collected? For example, I collected 2 items here. For example, one on the bootloader, where apparently there's some breakage with the bootloader. Embryon from the FreeBSD forums, he created some scripts that help with that. Obviously, that is something that may affect every kind of FreeBSD system, not just desktop and laptop use, but particularly because, let's say, desktop and laptop use is probably for people who are newcomers sometimes. They might be surprised by that or confused, and those scripts help with that. There's also on the mailing list, there was some conversation about how we could address the disconnect between DRM KMod binary package updates and release updates. I think many of us have seen that before. We do a minor release or major release upgrade. Actually, primarily, usually happens, I think, with the minor release upgrades. You do a minor release upgrade, and then the binary packages of DRM KMod no longer work. Okay, Ed says longer term fix for DRM KMod is, oops, and the chat was gone. Hold on a second, I need to open the chat on the side. Guys, if you want to jump in with remarks, it's totally fine if you speak up as well, in my opinion. Okay, just so you know. Bring it back to base. Yes. Of course, yes. If that is possible from a license perspective, I suppose, yeah. So there's a suggestion from Bob to change the versioning scheme. I think that is really a great idea, and that might address that also in the short term. There is also something that I came across. I've got a framework, 12th Gen Intel. I changed or upgraded to 14.2, and I stuck with the regular vanilla kernel and with the vanilla DRM KMod 61 from ports. And I noticed, I cannot say whether anyone else is having that, but I've at least had that. I had some kind of weird screen stuttering where the screen just froze, and it happened again and again until suddenly, sometimes the system just rebooted. And I had weird messages in the log that I could also find on GitHub as an already reported bug. So what I did, I took Dumbbell's work from way back and basically took a version of DRM KMod that used to work for 13.2, where I had a a custom kernel that I ran with that. And I ported it forward to run with 14.2, and I published that on GitHub, and it's been working fine for me. I've got no more screen freezes. The issues are gone. The messages are gone. So if anyone is interested, have a look at that. Unfortunately, I need to point out it's not going to be easy to compare, unfortunately, to the current DRM KMod, because I only had a shallow repository. But if anyone could help me with, getting that back up aligned with the current branches, then I would be happy to realign, maybe to help with potential troubleshooting to figure out what's causing the breakage. There's also been a donation, a code donation. Ed remarked already. Actually, somehow it's funny. I updated the slide deck with your remarks, Ed. There's been work by Tom, also working on the IWX driver. And so if there's anyone interested in helping out with that, then I think it would be a great point.
Hey, Chris, maybe I'll just break in.
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Yeah, so it's Tom Jones. I've been contracted with the FreeBSD Foundation to do a port of IWX, actually from Haiku, because they imported OpenBSDs. I was working on this the last quarter of 2024, and so I've got a quite mature, not the right word. I've done quite a lot of development on this driver, and then Future Crew very kindly donated their source right at the end of the year. And so I've moved my development to pull stuff from their source release, primarily because the goal of my port is to make it as easy as possible to pull updates from OpenBSD as they come. So we don't have the situation we have right now with IWM where it takes an expert to do updates. Instead, it should be easy to do diffs. And that's not the way Future Crew did their work. It's totally understandable. And then there's some limitations in hardware support and robustness for hardware that they didn't support, which is in the port I have. And so I've been working on this. The update that Ed probably linked to says that I've intentionally not made this easy for anyone else to test because it crashes for me. I don't need more people telling me it crashes for them. It would just be pain for anyone who tries it right now. Right now, the goal is to get this working with HT rates, so 8211N, which would be about 130 megabit, but we won't do that. And then we're going to pause development and figure out what the next step should be. And so that will probably end in the next few weeks.
Okay, that sounds great. Perfect, thank you. All right, I think I've got two more, yes. So there was some workaround mentioned on the forums that I wanted to raise awareness about, because yes, we have some issues with Bluetooth audio. I think many of us have experienced that in the past. There's a couple of people also that made suggestions that this is an area that we should be working on. A couple of guys on the forums, I think, brought up the kind of workaround to use USB dongles that expose an audio interface instead of a Bluetooth interface. They would still allow a Bluetooth connection, but instead of connecting them through a Bluetooth connection, FreeBSD would then just use the audio interface to connect. So that is, I think, a nice workaround. Obviously, it's not a fix or solution, but it does give you the option. And last but not least, as Colin pointed out on the mailing list, I wanted to remind all of us that the release cycles are shortening. Yes, there's pros and cons to that, but I think in terms of desktop and laptop use, that would be beneficial because we would be closer to the various ports and making things compatible. So that is definitely a step forward. All right. Yes, a quick reminder about our charter. If anyone wants to add or say something to that, then please speak up. Otherwise, I would like to use the opportunity to ask you really quickly if anyone thinks it's better merge such a new section and with the updates at the later part of the call, or whether we should keep that separate. Obviously, I would also invite you guys to send in any kind of news bits where you think this is something that everyone should be aware of. But I don't want to overblow the call into a news call, obviously. All right. So for the time being, I guess I will keep it unless anyone complains. Let's move further. Right. So I would like to point out that, yes, this work group stands on the shoulders of giants. We're following in the footsteps, at least I'm following in the footsteps of Greg, let's say, with this enterprise working group. And in the past couple of weeks, we realized that we have some action areas where they would fit either group. They would fit into the laptop and desktop work group just as much as they would, or maybe sometimes even better in the enterprise working group. And instead of risk duplicating work or risk having to track things from both sides, we realized, okay, this is something we should be talking about. And my suggestion is that Greg and maybe Alice and me will sit down and hammer out a suggestion how we want to deal with a situation like that in the future, and then figure out also a way of dealing with, let's say, activities and projects that eventually may fizzle out and or get orphaned, because I think that is also something that Greg has been struggling with on the enterprise working group, where he figured recently that we should focus on tracking things that are actively progressing. But if we have projects that have no status updates for multiple iterations, then it makes no sense to keep asking whether things have changed. That only makes people lose time, really, at the end of the day. And we want to use our time to the best of our ability. So if everyone is okay with that, Greg and me and Ellis, or Greg, Ellis, and me, sorry about that. Greg, Ellis, and me will sit down, come up with a suggestion, and we will present that probably in both calls, just for review and hopefully accepting the approach. All right. Let's take a quick look at this survey. I mentioned previously, yes, we ran a survey. We ran a survey, a public one. And as a matter of fact, it's already been a couple more responses than the ones I processed, because eventually I had to take a cut and start working with the data that I had. When I updated the slides, it was already 41. The last time I checked, it was already, I think, at 40, 46 or 49 or something. So it will, there's actually additional data available, and I'm hoping to update it eventually, but I want to give you the status of the 40 votes and responses that we got, because there's definitely something to learn from that. I'm also going to share, or I already started sharing, the raw data on the responses. So if anyone wants to take a look at that and stab on that, then obviously you're welcome. I do want to point out that this is, a snapshot, as I said. This is not necessarily representing the whole community. I also cut out the contact data that was on the survey, obviously, because I want to respect the privacy of people that voted and put down responses. So wherever possible, I took out email addresses and such. But otherwise, I kept things as they are, particularly with the data that I shared. The ranking itself is or was done or is done on the survey from a scale from 1 to 4. Intentionally, I also want to point out, because people otherwise tend to take the middle ground, and then we don't get any kind of results. So we tend to either, or we will have to, in the survey, get results on either more towards the lower or more towards the higher end of things. It's a bit of a forcing technique, but it did give us an interesting perspective. So what did we learn from that? We learned from the survey that with those 40 respondents, that across those various areas, those categories that we identified in the survey, hardware is clearly the leader. What is also very interesting, in my opinion, is that documentation is something that we can very easily apparently get support, but not as many people think that it is really the area where we need the improvement. And what is also interesting, and this is actually coming out even stronger in other diagrams, with performance and power, that is something where people strongly agree that this needs improvement, but there's less people who are actually able to help it and to help the process. Similarly, with the system updates and software, stronger support, then people think there's the need for improvement. Right. In terms of the hardware improvements area, because these were actually separated out, it's also easily identifiable that graphics and wireless LAN are the leaders. And then there's immediately after that, there's USB 3 and 4, and Bluetooth and fingerprint is something that the majority of people actually think is less important than all the other stuff, really. So when we also ask people to tell us whether they would be interested to take a lead in a particular area, then this is the outcome, and this is very interesting because the performance and power, which people agree that there is a need for improvements, is something that not a single person of the 40 people said they would be interested. Whether that means they don't have the capability, or whether it means that they just don't want to do it. The survey does not take that, does not say anything about that. I also want to point out that just because of the fact that people said they're interested in supporting, this makes no statement about what it actually means. So just because people think they're strongly interested in supporting, for one person could mean that they would want to spend 40 hours a week. The other people might say, yeah, couple hours per quarter is fine. I cannot spend any more time than that. There is no quantification in terms of what it means in terms of capabilities and availability of people. And as such, please take the results as a grain of salt. But regardless, I think it gives a good indication where people think the priorities are. We additionally asked people about desktop environments, and there were also a couple of open options where people could state their preferred desktop environment. So there is quite a variety that we turn out in the end. However, you can tell there are favorites. Like, yes, there is technology like X and Wayland that stick out. There is a clear front runner like KDE, and then there is XFC, and then there's various other that are spread across the various responses. Finally, there were options to add comments, and from those comments, I realized that there's, let's say, a spectrum of things that were not on the worksheet yet. And I think they're also reasonably interesting to present. So I want to run you through that really quickly as well. And it is also segmented the same way as the survey, obviously. So the various categories present the various topics that were brought. And here we see, for example, for the console improvements, one of them, or some of the most frequently mentioned areas are there that we need to focus on screen blanking, external display support, input methods for Asian languages. There's a desire for documentation access from the console, improved console fonts, key bindings, and mouse support. And in terms of desktop environment and application framework, there's significant interest in adopting Wayland, modern compositors, developing a FreeBSD specific desktop application framework, better support for Sway, and exploring a homegrown desktop environment, which is also quite an intriguing approach. And for the screen blanking and power management, which I think comes on the next one. Oh, I mixed up my notes. I just realized. A second. I think it's on the next one, is it? Yeah, sorry about that. I kind of mixed up the notes here. In regards to the external display support, which I should also add a little bit more information. There were the suggestions to allow or support the creation of utilities that would allow using something like xrender that we have for X11, to use something like that for a regular console to share various console configurations to external displays. That I think was very interesting. And what does better sway support mean? Question. That is a very good question. I don't have anything specific in my notes here. I would have to check. I would have to check the survey results for whether there was anything more specific in that. But I'm afraid I think that was the general statement there. It was just mostly generic that they want, or there is a want for better. Yeah, Manu, please speak up. If you guys want to speak, please jump in.
Yeah, so a few things. All those improvements will be very, very valuable. And although I won't work on them, I'm available if anyone wants to work on that. Something are not really doable without a lot of work.
Mhm.
For example, I just say that external display support just for console is not possible without DRM, and it's not possible without DRM in base and really tied to our VT subsystem.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be very nice to have, but yeah, don't hope having this in the next, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years. And
Okay.
yeah, for all the way-down, better sway support, etc., I'm really interested in what people expect. I mean, I've been using Sway for, I don't know, 3-4 years now
Mhm.
as my main well compositor on my laptop that I'm using here, my desktop, etc. We use it at work for our customers. So yeah, please tell me what's wrong with Sway support right now. And for WLAN acceptation and development in FreeBSD, I mean, people just need to start to use it. It's been working for years. And yeah, I know that KDE still doesn't really work. I mean, sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. I don't know the XFC supports, but I think it's pretty new upstream, so I won't expect some good supports in FreeBSD. But maybe we can have some surprise and it's working out of the box. So yeah, but yeah, for all the console improvements, if people want to work on that and don't really know what to do, don't hesitate to drop a mail on some mailing lists, add me in CC if you want, and I will try to explain how to do that.
Okay.
And yeah, because that's everything on this list is not something that I'm interested in and not something that work is interested in. So I will not have time to work on that, but I can help people.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to take it from the top because I didn't really watch who put up their hand first. Jean-Sébastien.
Yes, thanks. About that console improvements that are listed here. In fact, I'm wondering what people are expecting in the first place, because why just not start Wayland or Xorg session? I know that currently we have the problem of your GPU needs to be supported by the DRM drivers, but I think time would be better invested in having simple DRM work on FreeBSD than adding everything that is listed to VT. I think I don't understand what is the expectations from users here regarding console improvements.
Mm-hmm. I would like to suggest I will revisit the survey results, whether anyone added their contact details, and I will ask them for more details unless anyone is on a call who actually brought those suggestions. I think it's probably the best way forward, because right now I think nobody of us has the particular answer to that question. So thank you.
I saw. So I joined the Discord FreeBSD server a few days ago, and I saw people telling that FreeBSD for them is they would like to do everything in the console, and I fail to see why we should duplicate the effort and re-implement everything that is already working fine.
I think one of the points that were made also on the survey, which is I would say definitely a valid point, that the console is kind of one of the main user interfaces of FreeBSD, and it's been that since the beginning, really. So it should be a first-class citizen in terms of user interface, also for general laptop and desktop use. Even though, admittedly, the majority of user interfaces today are graphical and they are on X11. So, and that's just what it is. But you can't have a console on X11, which is completely understandable. But I think, as Manu pointed out, if you want to have that multi-display approach working, then it's not going to work out of the box, and not easily. Okay, Manu, yes, do you want to add anything?
Yeah. So what you're saying about VT being the primary primary console, the primary way that everyone uses FreeBSD, it's true, but that's only true because we don't ship DRM in base. We don't have any good way for people to auto-install any desktop when they want with the installer, etc., etc. And honestly, I don't think that it should be a first-class citizen. Console access is console access. So you will have just text, even in VESA mode, in all BIOS VESA mode, you will have something very rudimentary. And yes, we should have something that is usable for people, but just usable so they can have something else. And if we can improve tiny bits, for example, input methods and fonts and whatever, I'm not even sure that it's something that we should spend time on it, except if someone have a lot of time to spend and to lose on working on that. If you want something usable with, for example, you said you can have console with X11 or with Wayland. That's not even really true. Just start a terminal application in full screen and it's exactly the same, except it works better. And speaking as one of the DRM keyboard maintainer for quite some time, the only mostly active X11 member right now, no one on the team will spend some time working on VT, except if it's to have DRM working better with VT. The last two people who work on VT were me, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was for DRM. And the latest one was Jean-Sébastien, and it was for the exact same reason. So, and I think maybe VT, I haven't seen a good patch before mine or Jean-Sébastien one for 4 or 5 years. So if people really care about VT, they should start to work on it, because anyone working with graphics doesn't care about VT right now. We just care because DRM uses it, kind of. So yeah, feel free to work on it. Feel free to ask us questions, but don't expect miracles.
Fair point, and I think it's good that that we explicitly state that, so we don't get expectations of things happening that will then not happen. And so, thank you. All right, I'm gonna quickly go through the list. Charlie, I think you were before Alexander.
Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to say something about the about just the desktop environment / window managers. Just the list, or whatever we want to call it. Yeah, like even though the survey results, like most of them, besides like Wayland, which is not really a desktop environment or a window manager by itself, unless you count Weston as an implementation. You saw that KDE and XFC were kind of like the two most popular ones, but you have to realize that you have to realize that pretty much all of those options, like at least on the survey, but also on the working document in the FreeBSD Foundation project issue, they pretty much all depend on basically two GUI toolkits, whether it's Qt or GTK. So when you consider those, I mean, like Qt and KDE are kind of developed together, and then GTK is actually developed as part of GNOME. So when you really think about it, it's like if you sure, it's like we could make XFC just a first-class citizen, but the issue with that is you still have to coordinate with making sure all the stuff from GNOME, i.e. GTK, glib, WebKit GTK, a whole dbus, a whole bunch of other stuff actually are up to par. So probably makes more sense to designate at least the two projects that actually develop the libraries that other desktops use, because then as long as you have those up to snuff, then yeah, XFC will work fine, Mate will work fine, Cinema will work fine. I mean, hell, even what was that desktop environment from True OS before? That was a Qt based desktop. So so you just have to consider that you're not just supporting the individual desktop environments or window managers. You're also dealing with all the libraries that actually support it all. And just from a logical standpoint, it's probably best to support just KDE and GNOME for now, because then everything else follows. Lumina, yes, correct.
All right. Thank you. Wolfgang, I think you were the next.
Yeah. So sorry, I was just going to mention that regarding the input methods for Asian languages, because I feel like that's an important thing we haven't mentioned, because a lot of people, especially from Taiwan and Japan and Korea, wonder how they're going to write the language in the terminal off to go. And I found a solution, at least for the Chinese speakers. The G0V project has a dictionary list, and that was my main worry for writing this whole thing, right? That is licensed under MIT license. So that's something we can use to make it possible to write both in Pinyin and Julian in the base installation. So I was wondering if I could at least make a concept of it, and maybe somebody will be able to help me, because I'm not really good at programming. So yeah.
Okay. So what kind of support would you need there in terms of programming? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I was thinking about a way for VT to call a specific application. That would be the application that translates from the Julian and the Pinyin to a character, right? because
Okay.
we need to make it some way possible to select between different characters. Right now in VT, it's not possible to show a menu up, and like without it being extreme, like complex.
Right. That is actually an interesting question. I'm wondering whether that is truly a VT issue or whether there would be other alternatives. But then again, I'm probably not the best to speak to that. Is there anyone who wants to say something to that? Anyone got any ideas, architecturally speaking, how that could best be approached?
I'm thinking of a piece of software called Kanata. This is used, I don't know if anybody knows about that here, but this is used to reproduce the behavior of a programmable keyboard, and it presents a virtual EVDev device. And basically, it sits between your hardware keyboard and that virtual device, and then it can reinterpret all the inputs from that keyboard. So I don't know if that would be a possible approach to solve the input methods.
Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, that's a plausible approach. Can you tell me the name of it again? Sorry.
It's called Kanata. I'm using it on a daily basis. I will write the name in the chat. So
thank you.
All right.
We can talk about that after the call if you want.
Okay. Alexander, you were also raising your hand.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about console. I primarily use FreeBSD on console on laptop for many years. It's bulletproof and it just works, and the key bindings have been the same for a long, long time. And I think it's really a very compelling user environment. And when I was a kid, we had a lot better stuff there. We had MouseD, which Wolf is working on. We had screensavers. It's got really robust color. And I don't think that it makes sense to add graphics to that because that's not what it's for. But it is for a CLI environment. And I think that if you want a command line interpreter based environment, traditional BSD console is really the best. And I don't think that it's good to let it rot. And this is more like a humble request for consideration to the committee, because I just write man pages and sometimes a little bit in the handbook. So I'm really not that capable of doing programming. But I've been working on man pages a lot with most of the people in this call, it seems. And just like, for example, the fonts, people talked about color, and I remember reading, because this is my main UI, so I'm very interested in this for a long time. I remember reading that they couldn't really get full color due to technical limitations, so you can put whatever colors you want in hex, and those will be approximated to something, and that works really well, and it looks good. I change my colors usually every season, and have a good time with that. What we're really missing on VT right now in terms of the bit rot over my lifetime has been that it's, since the fonts are bitmap fonts, which I don't see how we would be able to really scale that without doing something ridiculous and less bulletproof, is that as screens have gotten higher resolution, there's no longer, on like a 4K laptop, there's no longer a font that implements standard BSD console dimensions. And I think that that's really important as we build upwards to keep the base intact. So I don't think it makes sense to try to put graphics in there, but just like there's a bug open where I've been working on this, but I can't figure out, I'm stuck. We could convert a font to more appropriate sizes for modern stuff. And some work was done with that already in Spleen, but the Spleen font is missing many of the standard characters that were present in Terminus. And so that is bit rot.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean-Sébastien, I think you raised your hand. You wanted to add anything?
Yes, to answer to Alexander, I only looked so far at the problem with colors in the terminal. And if I remember correctly, the limitation is the type that the C type that we used for characters. It embeds the color inside. So we are limited by the size of that type. That's why currently it doesn't support more than, I think it was 8-bit colors. And we would have to revisit that type if we wanted to have true colors, 32-bit colors, or use markers. I don't know exactly what we would have to do, but yeah, it's not that simple with the current design.
Got it. Okay. All right. You guys also mentioned in the chat the time frame of the call, so I jumped ahead with the slides, and I would like to ask around how you guys are feeling time-wise. Is there anyone who's got any time constraints that we should be finishing at 7 p.m. UTC? If there's anyone who's got time pressure, then I would suggest we save the survey for the next call or for a later point and skip to the action items, if that is okay. Otherwise, I will stick to the timetable for the time being. Alice, yes, please go ahead.
I think I missed that this was 90 minutes. Is this 90 minutes or 60?
I did my best to schedule it for 90 minutes. I hope I did, because I figured we've got so much stuff on the plate right now. But if anyone's got time pressure, then let's skip ahead. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, could we do the foundation bits?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Out of order, that would be helpful.
So then let's jump ahead. Of course.
Because potentially all the people that I've asked to attend might not realize it was
absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Apologies.
No, it's okay. It may just have passed me by.
So those were the slides from the last time, but or did you add anything?
Yeah, there's some new slides.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't add anything to the introduction, but I left it there for context for people who this may be their first call. So I'm not not going to talk through it, but it's there for anyone to read or come back to if they want to know more. And this is just a little update on a page, progress on a page, really, just to show the things that we've been doing in the background. So we've got we started really kind of in the back half of November, really after the full FreeBSD summit, and we started off pretty much by presenting the project at the summit. Then we worked to get all the contract.
Oh, here we go. Okay, Alice, are you back? Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
did I
sorry,
drop?
you were gone for a second. Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm going to turn my camera off. Where did I get to?
That is a very good question.
Oh.
Basically, you were. I think you were just starting out, really.
Oh, okay, that's a shame. Okay, well, look, I'm not going to read through the two red sections again because you can probably just read through it. But essentially, although we did start some development in November and December, and we brought in some work streams that were already happening, our first sort of full iteration is really January, which is obviously ongoing. But there are a few work items delivered from December as well, which is great. And there are a few other things sort of going on in the background, but by and large, I think you should be able to get some updates every month in this call. Even if it's not in this call, we aim to have the updates ready in time for this call. So if you go to the GitHub project the day after this call, you should see all the updates from the previous month. So if it's January, you'll see December's updates. If it's February's call, you'll see January's updates. Hope that makes sense. Next one. And weirdly, I had hiccups up until just now, so it's amazing that they've gone. Oh, maybe this isn't the most up-to-date version. Oh.
I think that might be on me because I opened the slide deck reasonably early. I think that might have caused the slide deck to load with an older version. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think there's some updates on those slides.
Okay, let me try reloading that. Hold on a second.
Thank you. Hey, they came back. Thanks, Chris. So of the ongoing work in December, we had a couple of completed issues, and these are links. You can click on those from the slides, or you can just go and find them in GitHub on our GitHub project, and there will be some links to that lower down. So we had document had to update graphic drivers and a proof of concept driver for Intel Wi-Fi interfaces that Tom mentioned earlier, and then we have an in review issue, which is porting graphic drivers from 6.7. So there's a couple of areas that it would be really awesome if we can hear from you on. One is the feedback in the lists of things that we're trying to develop for supporting. Now, we can use some of the information from the survey today as well as other sources, but we'd really like to hear the rationale behind some of the answers that you gave. So I believe that if you're on the desktop mailing list, then there is a thread already asking for feedback on these. So that's your best place to go and give your feedback. Another question, so there's tons of things that come up that are usability related. Not all of them are the things that we're working on, but overall in terms of laptop stuff, we would really benefit from people who are willing to try stuff out on their laptops, whether that's stuff that we've been working on or stuff that other people have been working on, but to do it in a kind of systematic way and capture that information. We need, in my opinion, I still work in usability. We kind of need someone to take ownership and say, actually, do you know what, that would be really rewarding and really beneficial for the community. I'd love to have a go. So if anyone feels like doing that, that would be super welcome. And then something that's come up is that not all things may not always be thought of as it may not always be thought to upstream changes to other projects. So if that's something that might apply to something you're working on or something that someone else is working on, you can advocate for doing that, then we're here to say, we support that mindset. And it would be helpful if we could get into that way of thinking. And did I have another slide? That's probably it, right? Yeah, so this slide is the same as last time, so it's useful links basically. And I'm just going to look at Ed and ask if I missed anything. No. Okay, cool. We're done. Thank you.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep, I hear
Yes.
you, Nor.
Hello, Greg. How are you? Actually, I have a question because it's here mentioning Thunderbolt users USB 3 or 4, I think it's miswritten. The focus was more on supporting Thunderbolt 3 or USB 4 basically, which is in the work there is technically backward compatible with the USB 3, or that's intentionally written like this. Okay. Well, I will assume that is Thunderbolt 3 USB 4 protocol or specification support. I will not waste your time. Basically, quickly speaking, I'm literally nobody in the FreeBSD community. I'm nothing more than an individual volunteer and very passionate about supporting FreeBSD. Some time ago, I had had actually the honor to meet HPS Hans-Peter Selesky before he dies for sorry, and I hope that by working with him that he can mentor me, given that I had general interest in USB. I also knew that he was working on USB 4. Unfortunately, he died. Well, but so it's said like this. Luckily, the work he's been handed over by Scott. He committed into GitHub, so we have at least some of the work that he's been working on, in addition to the work that has been by Scott before he moves on to focus on his day job. Not to waste your time, I have everything recorded here. I'm gonna put in the chat. That's everything, basically an extract from the notes that has been left by Scott and HPS, either in email or in the code. Also clear information about the tech roadmap and basically the plan I have to progress that to a full USB 4 support. And basically I started by studying the code that is being committed and testing it with a set of hardware that I have listed also there, both for host and device side. And that's basically what I'm busy with now. I cannot say how much time I fully can commit for that because it's done really in my free time. So I cannot quantify that yet. But I hope that at least in the calls that we have monthly, I can show the support, show the progress. And of course, if anybody interested can share the work or join or even mentor me in areas that I don't know about, device driver development or FreeBSD kernel. That's basically it. Just one bit I forgot to mention about my background. I'm a software developer, but not in any way a system level software developer. So I'm still learning as well, in addition learning about the specs. So that's it.
Okay, got it. Can you guys hear me again, or is my audio still parked? Is there anyone who wants to pick any of those items and say anything to the various items that we have on this list? Robin, yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Perhaps now it's time to talk about Bluetooth
Yes,
low energy
for example.
support a little bit.
Please.
You may have noticed that BLE devices aren't supported at all by the Bluetooth utilities included in base. And I've looked into this and found out that actually we do support Bluetooth low energy devices, at least at the kernel side. This is work done by Takanori Watanabe already in 2016, if I recall correctly. And it turns out he also wrote some experimental user space tools for pairing and configuring the encryption and so on. But they were in a very bad state, totally undocumented, and in my experience, unusable. But I hacked around with them a little bit and got to work at least 2 BLE mouses. I'll send you the link to my fork. At the very least, I would like to continue hacking on this repository and supporting more devices. So if you want to give it a shot, try it. Added some very rudimentary documentation. And if you have problems, there are some, please create a ticket and attach all of the logs that I'm asking for. There's a point in the README where I'm asking for various logs. And that's what I'm going to do at the bare minimum. But I am also considering to work on this more seriously, because sooner or later we should get BLE support into the base utilities, especially considering that we already have it in the kernel. And but I'm not quite sure how to do this. Well, it would make sense to add BLE support to BTHID daemon and the other existing Bluetooth daemons, or whether we should rather use Andreas Kempe's BlueD, or whether we should do something completely different. I worked with Andreas Kempe, and he said that he thinks that we should perhaps consider adopting the Linux drivers and Linux Bluetooth stacks. I haven't made up my mind on that yet, but yeah, I'm considering to work on this further and perhaps even get financing by the FreeBSD Foundation. Somebody already reported blues. Okay, interesting, cool. Is it online already? And it works with. Yeah, cool. If we already have blues, I didn't know even that it's possible to support blues with the kernel interfaces we already have. I didn't suppose they are compatible. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say about it. Perhaps we can get in contact.
All right.
Gleb and I. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. I guess Gleb is making some interesting remarks. So I suppose it would definitely make sense maybe to have a closer conversation with him directly. Or Gleb, you want to say more directly? All right, maybe he's got audio issues. Maybe, I don't know. All right, anything else you want to add about the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support? I guess it makes sense that I will take the repository that you added here and add a remark. We can check this one out. We've got a date column here in the back. Here we are.
Oh, I have another remark.
Yes, please go ahead.
There's a patch by Andreas Kempe waiting to be merged upstream since 2022. And he's already given up on getting it merged or getting anything done in regards to Bluetooth. That was necessary for his BlueD daemon. So if anybody would like to, take care of it, I looked at the patch. It looked very, how do I say, didn't look, well, it looked kind of simple. Should be no problem to merge it. But I'm not a committer, so somebody who's a committer should have a look at it.
Do you have a link to the review, or?
I would have to Google it.
Okay. Or maybe can you put something in the chat to help find that?
Yeah. Wait, I'll Google it and put the link into the chat.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Do we have any other areas where people want to add anything? Great. Hold on a second. Oops. Charlie, yes, please go ahead.
I can hear you for what it's worth.
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Oh, sorry, then it's just me. Sorry. Now it works.
Bit closer. Anyway, do we have for the what was it, the documentation on setting up a graphical desktop environment? Do we have something? Do we have like a repository or anything like that yet, or is that the GitHub thing? Handbook.x11.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So do we have a repository, or is anyone working on like or has anything public for the tutorial / documentation for setting up a graphical desktop environment?
I think there is some work,
or even like a review.
There is some work happening, if I remember correctly. Sorry, yes, Alexander, you want to say something? I have to.
Yeah, I've been working on the X11 chapter of the handbook for many months, and it's a little bit rough, and some of it is not up to our style because I was experimenting with different ways to do it. But I've posted a link to the chat, and I would appreciate if anyone's interested in working on the X11 chapter of the handbook to please contact me.
All right. I think Sergio Calavilla is also working on some documentation and some documents in terms of what Charlie mentioned, if I remember correctly, because he also put his name down here, I think, if I saw this. Yes. So
I posted it in the chat. He's doing articles. I posted the link to the reviews.
Okay. We're right up here. I see it. Okay. I will walk through the chat at the end of the call to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So please bear with me if I did miss anything. Then I will put it in here later. Yes. Sorry, Charlie, please.
Yeah, and then did you have something further for that point? Because I had a couple other things.
No, that's it. Please go ahead.
Okay. So for code repository to share content and code alternatives to GitHub. So I had mentioned earlier, I mean, Gleb and a couple others on the KDE team, they have their little, carve out on the KDE infrastructure, which includes a repository. So I think if anything, like at least for the big like desktop environment, so for instance, the GNOME project, they have their own entire GitLab instance. So I mean, at least for that side of things, we could probably just figure out a way to establish something on there, like establish like a ports overlay or something like that. In addition to obviously certain like quote unquote forks, so that pull requests are easier or whatnot. So I think a lot of that is just going to be at least on the desktop environment side, just identifying like if we're able to like establish like the carve outs that KDE has, so to speak.
Okay. Got it. So obviously there is now a bunch of items on this worksheet, and I think from the conversation at the beginning, we can see that there isn't necessarily an agreement on all those points, and that not all of those points have the support in terms of developing that further. So I'm guessing at the moment that probably would make sense to clean that up eventually, step by step, by basically following whatever procedure we figure out in terms of taking out items that do not find the necessary ownership and support. Actually, I just realized I put the handbook X11 chapter improvement separately down here, but I think, so for example, the duplication, I will also have to clean that up after the call. However, what I would like to suggest, we now have this column with, I think it's called contributors. So here we have Alexander. Already said we can put him down here on the contributor side. If there is anything that you as a participant want to put your name up or want to speak up or say anything about any of those items that you're working on, anything or something you want to point out, or you want to basically make a call for action or want to ask for support, then I think now would be a good time to do so. Yes, Alexander, please.
Can you please put me down for fonts on VT? I have been working on this. I understand everyone's too busy to help me, but I have been working on this and I'm going to continue working on this. And if you could please put it down as VIE at, because I'm inside.
Okay, it looks like I don't have that in here yet, right? There's only the UTF-8 support and color support in VT, but that's not what you were saying, right? It's a separate item.
No, that's not what I was saying. And actually, we have UTF-8 and color support. I've been using traditional Chinese fonts on VT for 4 years now, so we do have that.
Okay, then I will put a separate item down here.
I'm also interested in writing overview man pages. I wrote one for Wi-Fi, like a basic quick start guide in section 7, which has been merged for a few releases now. And I thought that worked well. And I've been thinking about this for years. So please, if anybody's working on that, I would like to work on it with them. Or if anyone has any ideas for me on how to do that, I would like to hear them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I did add you here. Actually, I can just as well put you on here as well, I think. Okay. Are there any other takers in terms of remarks or taking a lead on any of the items? Charlie, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So going back to the desktop, desktop setting up documentation. Like you could probably put me on there as well. Just just as the like one of the desktop hats. I don't necessarily see myself, directly like writing the documentation per se quite yet, just because I'm still very much in the thick of a lot of like desktop and package-based infrastructural, tasks that I'm just kind of in the middle of. So it's more of just like if you have any question, if the actual documentation writers or those who are helping with the documentation have any questions about just general workflow or gotchas or whatever, like you can certainly ask me about those. Yeah, the documentation on package based, I'm actually in the middle of also working on that. I don't have anything public just yet, just because I'm trying to compare a couple things especially with workflow, gotchas and whatnot. But you can certainly, I was kind of mandated to work on that anyway, so you could probably put me down on at least for the package based documentation. We'll see about the rest of the development efforts later, but at least on the documentation, you can put me down for that.
Gotcha. All right. Perfect. That is definitely an interesting piece. I was looking at that also recently, but I understand this is still work in progress also in terms of making it compatible with the installer and migrating an existing system to it, right? This is part of the FreeBSD Foundations project also, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So like the biggest, like I would say, like me personally, like my personal experience with package-based thus far has actually been migrating two of my current. Well, actually, pretty much all my systems are current, but two of them migrating from, just make, build world, install world sort of a deal to package base. There's definitely some gotchas in that, just migrating from the old way to package base. So that probably just needs to be at least documented. Just to, I know there's some stuff on the wiki, but the wiki gets disorganized very quick. So it's also a matter of like kind of taking the best of the stuff that is still relevant on the wiki and then comparing it with how it currently works and all that stuff.
I know that Michael Dexter created a bunch of scripts also for his Occam BSD, I think it's called. I need to check my notes because the last time I joined the Jails call, he actually brought that up, and I think I wrote down the link to his repo. That might also be a resource to investigate. Let's say maybe a helpful resource. So I'm also gonna check that out. I'm gonna put my name here down as well because it's definitely an interesting topic. I'm not sure whether I will be capable of doing it, but I will definitely check it out. All right. Great. Any other items that anyone wants to raise or bring to the front? Alexander, you've got your hand up. Sorry, I didn't realize.
Will you please put me down also for troubleshooting guide for users how to produce useful bug reports? I've been working on the bugs 7 for the man pages because that man pages don't get disorganized so easily, and it's really easy for us to export them into every kind of format.
Right. Okay. Got your name down there. Perfect. I think Wolfkin wanted to say something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna work on the Chinese one at the very least, the input method for Chinese, so that you can type in.
Right, hold on a second. Gotcha. All right, perfect. I hope I didn't mistype the name. All right. Okay, yes, we're basically out of time, but I think we managed to go through most of the parts. The main thing that is an important thing that I would like to raise, however, before closing is the final question of when to have our next call, because unfortunately I do have a scheduling conflict that I would like to resolve, and I would like to resolve it hopefully permanently, let's say. I'm just going to quickly share my screen here. My suggestion for the next time is to stay with the Monday, but move it to 1 week later, because the week before I'm unfortunately booked already with another engagement that I cannot move. And then because unfortunately my Mondays will be blocked from then on, I would like to suggest to move it to every second Wednesday, but the same time basically. And that should align nicely also with the Enterprise Working Group, which is also on Wednesdays, but it's on each third one, if I remember correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Greg. And so this would be then the March 12th would be then the call after the February one. And yes, I understand that this is rather close together, but I think it's gonna line up smoothly afterwards, and it will give us time to catch up on a couple of items that were left from today's call, basically, because there's still a couple items on the survey. I will be updating with the additional votes and responses that we got. I will post the results also upfront on the mailing list, because I figure I don't want to spend all the time on the survey in the next call either. But I think it's going to be worthwhile to catch up on that. And finally, I would like to invite all of us to basically stay up to date, keep communicating on the mailing list, stay up to date also on the Foundation's project progress on GitHub, where the link is obviously on the slide deck as well as on the wiki. And that would basically be the most important parts for this call, I think. Unless anyone wants to speak up or say something, then please feel free to either jump in or raise your hand. Otherwise, I would do my best now to keep it in check so we're not running over as much as the last time. All right, so we're gonna stop the recording. Thank you. Like I've learned on, oh, here we go. Alexander, you wanna say something? Here's your chance.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say that Doc he doesn't have a lot of manpower. It's really, really easy for us to like ASCII Doctor is really easy to write. It's really easy to read. The tools compile it fairly quickly. It's really easy to test. I don't see how it could possibly be any easier. We just don't have a lot of manpower, doc committers, and so that's why stuff takes a while to get reviewed sometimes. But that's not that's not a technical issue, and I think trying to change anything technical about it is just going to bury us in even more work.
I completely understand. And one of the remarks that was made on the survey, and again, this might be very subjective, if not controversial, was that the ASCII doc that we are using for the documentation is a bit of a barrier to entry because people apparently like markup more or mark down more. I don't know. I have done also my fair share of documentation in ASCII doc using the existing tool chain, and I also agree with you, your assessment that yes, I think the tooling is easy enough to handle even for beginners. So that should not be the excuse for not contributing.
Also, I'm the documentation mentor on the community Discord, so anybody can send a mail to ziai.freebsd.org or ping ziai on Discord. And if anybody wants to learn about writing documentation, I am the POC for that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. All right. With that, as I've learned with Michael, or from Michael, like and subscribe, even though this one goes to the FreeBSD channel. So, but still, like and subscribe, guys. Okay, there you go. So shutting down the recording now, if I manage to find it in the menu.